I spent 5 years in banking. 5 years watching money move, watching people move. And I noticed something that completely shifted how I see the world. The people with the expensive cars, the designer watches, the pristine appearance, they weren't the rich ones. They were the broke ones, the really broke ones. Meanwhile, the people with the actual money, they dressed like they didn't care, because they didn't have to. That was the moment everything clicked for me. Here's what I mean by that. If you have nice things but no cash balance, you've just created a problem. You've got high debt and an expensive appearance. That's the trap. It looks like wealth from the outside. It feels like success when you're wearing it. But underneath, you're enslaved to it. You wake up thinking about the payment. You drive paranoid about the scratch. You can't actually enjoy the thing you bought to make you feel better. So today, I want to break something down that most people never figure out until it's too late. Why chasing a rich lifestyle doesn't make you rich. Why pursuing the appearance of success is actually the fastest way to guarantee failure. And most importantly, why your stuff should never own your mind the way mine owned me. Because I learned this lesson the hard way. And it cost me more than just money. Think back to high school. The star athlete? They didn't need to try. Their results spoke for themselves. They set the trends, everyone followed. That was real social power. Power based on actual ability, not appearance. But somewhere along the way, we inverted that. We started believing that if we just looked successful, we'd become successful. If we just dressed wealthy, we'd attract wealth. If we just performed confidence, people would see us as confident. Here's where it gets dangerous. Most of us have confused our goals with our methods. Say you want a healthy relationship. That's the goal. But if your goal is actually to look like the kind of person who can have a healthy relationship, now you need the car. Now you need the watch. Now the expensive thing isn't a want, it's a need. Because the item is doing the work for you. The item is supposed to convince them you're worth it. And that's backwards. Then, social media happened. And it made this problem infinitely worse. Because now, the trends don't change yearly. They change weekly. Every single week, there's a new aesthetic, a new flex, a new thing you're supposed to own to stay relevant. It takes an absolutely insane amount of resources to keep up. Most people can't. So they go into debt trying, and that's when they realize they're not chasing wealth anymore, they're chasing the ghost of it. I think fundamentally, we all want the same things. We want to be loved, we want to love, we want to protect people, we want to feel like we matter, we want to be happy. The problem isn't the goal. The problem is the price tag we put on achieving it. We've decided that the only way to get loved is to look lovable. The only way to matter is to look important. And that cost? It always exceeds the price. I remember my first car, a 1999 Crown Victoria. Wasn't pretty, wasn't impressive. One day a girl in school backed into me. We pulled over, she was crying, apologizing, trying to give me her insurance information. And I just remember thinking, as long as she's okay, it doesn't matter. The car is fine, we're both okay, that's all that matters. She seemed shocked by that response, like she expected me to be angry or devastated. But why would I be? It's a car. It does what a car does. After that, I bought a $2,500 two-door Ford Focus, and I spent zero time thinking about it. I'd park it anywhere. Sometimes I'd lock it. Sometimes I wouldn't. Honestly, I didn't care. There were more important things to think about than protecting a car. I was focused on school, on people, on actually building something. The car was transportation. That's it. No anxiety, no paranoia, just utility. That was freedom, though I didn't know it then. Then I was in Denver, staying at my uncle's place. He let me borrow his Infinity, and everything changed. For the first time in my life, I developed actual paranoia about an object. I would lock it multiple times. I'd park 3 blocks away and run there instead. If I touched the dashboard, I'd immediately wipe away the fingerprint with my sleeve, because I felt like just using the thing was ruining it. I couldn't relax, I couldn't just drive. I was in a relationship with the car, and it was anxious. Part of it was respect for my uncle. I didn't want to mess up something he cared about. But the other part? It was about me. The car was nice. I felt like I didn't deserve to use something nice. Or if I did use it, I had to be perfect about it. Any mistake would be a catastrophe. Any scratch would ruin everything. That's not freedom. That's a cage. And I built the cage with my own hands. Last days of the trip. I'm backing into a tight parking spot. Cars parked on both sides. I almost make it. Then, I nicked the car to my left. Barely anything. Their car is fine, they're fine, not upset, just moved on. But the Infinity has a small dent, and I lose it. I'm about to vomit. I'm thinking I've just destroyed this beautiful car. I've ruined the whole trip. I've ruined everything. This small imperfection means everything is now broken. That's how deep it goes. That's how twisted the attachment becomes. I tell my uncle. I'm panicking. And he just says, "Don't worry about it. It's an old car. I'm not concerned. As long as you're okay, everything's fine." That landed differently than he probably meant it to. Because he was telling me something important. The thing you're anxious about, it doesn't matter as much as you think, and the person you respect isn't disappointed because of a dent. He's just glad you're safe. That's when I realized something profound. We bring things into our lives for a purpose. A car is supposed to get you from A to B. That's it. But when we add emotional weight to it, when we make it a symbol of who we are or what we're worth, it stops being a tool. It becomes a cage. The item now owns you. You're thinking about it constantly. You're anxious around it. You've given it power over your mental space. And for what? For an appearance, for a feeling, for a story you're telling yourself about what it means. We live in a loud, chaotic society. There's noise coming from everywhere. Headlines, news, trends, problems. Everyone's trying to pull your attention. In that environment, your stuff should not be part of the noise. You shouldn't feel like every time you park your car you have to worry about it. That's mental energy you could use elsewhere. There are bigger things that deserve your focus, things that actually matter. Your stuff should be quiet. It should just work. When I worked as a teller, appearance was everything. Nice haircut, pressed suit, shined shoes, Johnson & Murphy shoes specifically, expensive ones. And I understood it, there's something to dressing professionally, but I was spending hundreds of dollars to let my clothes speak for me. I'd make sure my watch showed. I wanted people to see I was expensive before they even talked to me, because if they could see it, they wouldn't need to ask about my actual skills. That was the trap. I was using material things instead of developing actual competence. Why learn banking inside out if the customer can just see I have expensive shoes? Why develop empathy or listening skills if my suit communicates that I'm trustworthy? But then I got promoted to banker, and I realized none of that mattered anymore. No one cared about my watch. They cared about whether I could solve their problem. They cared about my understanding, my honesty, my actual value. So I made a decision. I stopped investing in appearance. I found the best fitting slacks and wore them every day. Found a comfortable shirt and wore it every day. Same shoes, every day. I became the Steve Jobs of basic banking attire. And you know what? I stopped thinking about how I looked. That mental energy freed up, and I used it on the actual job, on understanding what clients needed, on being present instead of being paranoid. Here's the weird part. By the end, I had a hole in my pants, a stain on my shirt, shoes that were completely falling apart, and not a single person said anything about how I looked. Not one. No one even cared. The only thing people commented on was that I'd grown my hair out. That was it. Everything I was paranoid about, no one noticed. No one was keeping score. And my job performance? That actually improved. I think we've gotten it completely backwards. We think appearance gets you the opportunity. But I'm telling you, appearance might get you close to the door, it might get you in the room, but what actually gets you through the door, what actually gets the deal done, that's all the stuff you can't see. Your skills, your character, your ability to listen, your understanding, your integrity. When you stop investing in the appearance, you have to actually become good at something, and that's terrifying for most people. I was in the hospital not long ago. Binary pulmonary embolism, blood clots in both my lungs. I was sitting on the edge of my tub completely unable to breathe, and in that moment I thought, this is it, this is the end, and my mind went to exactly two places. First, I hope my parents are okay, I hope they can survive this. Second, I wish I'd been kinder to myself. That was it. Those were the only two thoughts. I wasn't thinking about my car, I wasn't thinking about how I looked, or what anyone would think. I wasn't thinking about any of the things I'd spent years protecting and maintaining. None of it mattered. In the moment when it all might have ended, none of it was even a thought. If this is hitting you right now, if you're realizing you've been building cages out of things you thought would free you, hit that subscribe button, because I'm going to keep breaking down these inversions, these hidden patterns that nobody talks about. The irony is that we place so much emphasis on things we can see. We want the visible symbols of success. We want people to know we've made it. But real wealth? It's invisible. It's the person who has options. The person who doesn't have to panic about a parking lot. The person who can use a nice car without developing paranoia. It's the person with cash in the bank and zero anxiety about it. That's wealth, and you can't see it from the outside. No one knows. That's the whole point. Here's something harder. If your entire sense of worth is built on what you own, what happens when you look in the mirror and you hate what you see? What happens when the person looking back doesn't match the story you're telling? You'll spend every resource trying to fix it externally. New car, new clothes, new house, because you believe the problem is out there, but the real problem is in here, in how you treat yourself, in how you talk to yourself, in whether you believe you're worth something without the stuff. You can tell the person who's actually worked hard not by what they own. You can tell by how they carry themselves, by the way they listen, by their mannerisms, by their dialect, by whether they have empathy when they look at someone struggling, by whether they actually care about the world. That's the sign of someone who's built something real, and everyone can sense it. You don't need expensive shoes to show that. You don't need a watch. You just need to be present. So let me summarize this. Having a decent appearance? Important. We live in a society where it matters. You should probably look somewhat presentable. That's fair. But here's what's actually important. What's inside. How you're treating yourself and the people around you. The way you're aiming at your goals. The way you're moving through the world with intention. That's what matters. Not the watch, not the car, not the thing you're anxious about. If this changed how you think about your stuff, about your worth, about what you're chasing, subscribe. Tell someone about this. Share it with someone who's drowning in debt trying to look wealthy, because that person exists, and they need to know. Thank you for listening.